This is K. Himaja, lecturer in EEE department in SRRS Government Polytechnic Siricilla. In last class, I covered resistance wovens. So for low temperatures, means the operating temperature is below 300 degrees centigrade. For medium temperature furnaces, it is 3000 to 1050 degrees centigrade, and for high temperatures, the value becomes 1050 to 1350 degrees will operate. So this temperature is also named as high temperature furnaces. So this high temperature is using in hardening the applications. Medium temperature means 300 to 1050 degrees centigrade using in annealing. Low temperatures below 300 degrees centigrade using in wovens. So in the last class I covered resistance woven. And also I covered efficiency and losses of resistance wovens, means heat used in rising the temperature of woven, heat used in rising the temperature of containers, heat conducted through the walls, heat loss due to opening of woven door. So these 4 points I covered in detail in the last class. So first one is the heat used in rising the temperature of woven, means the formula is Ms delta Tj. So the mass of the refractory material is M. S is the specific heat. Rise of temperature is delta T. So same formula, what is the formula, means Ms delta Tj. Same formula is used for rising the temperature of containers or carriers. So next, similarly the heat conducted through the walls, there is no specific formula for this one. And finally, heat loss due to opening of woven door, means if so here the heat loss is approximately 0.58 to 1.15, 0.58 to 1.15 megajoules per meter square, So the duration is in between 20 to 30 seconds. And also I covered the efficiency of the woven, means output by input, output plus losses, output by input, output by output plus losses. So here output means the heat required to rise the temperature of the charge, plus total losses. So it is approximately in between 60% to 80%. So the efficiency of the resistance woven is in between 60% and 80%. Next, and also I covered radiant heating. The heating is produced through radiation. And also tungsten filament lamp I covered. Next, temperature can be controlled by various combination of groups of resistances. So variable number of elements, series parallel connection or star to delta arrangement of elements. In series connection, the number of elements are connected in series. For low temperatures connected in series and for high temperatures connected in parallel. So using with series parallel switch, in case of three-phase supply, initially in star for the low temperature and for high temperature shifting to delta side. Next one, arc heating also I covered. So the air in the gap gets ionized under the influence of electrostatic force and becomes conducting medium. Current flows in the form of a continuous spark known as arc. Current flows in the form of a continuous spark known as arc. So now the salient features of carbon and graphite electrodes are the silent features of carbon and graphite electrodes are: first one, resistivity. Resistivity means rho. Unit is ohm meter. Resistivity means represented by rho and units as ohm meter. Ohm meter. So the graphite electrodes have low specific resistance than the carbon electrodes. So the graphite required half in size for the same current, resulting in easy replacement. Resulting in easy replacement. Oxidation. Graphite begins to oxides at 600 degrees C, whereas carbon at 400 degrees C. Here the oxidation takes place for graphite is 600 degrees C, whereas for carbon it is 400 degrees C. Next one, electrode consumption. So for steel melting furnaces, the consumption of the carbon electrodes is about 4.5 kg of electrodes per ton of steel and 2.3 to 6.8 kg electrodes per ton of steel for the graphite electrodes. For the graphite electrodes. Next one, cost. The graphite electrodes cost about twice as much per kg as the carbon electrodes. So the choice of the electrodes depends chiefly on the question of the total cost. In general, if The process requires large quantities of electrode. Carbon is used, but for other process the choice depends on local conditions. Here large quantity required, then prefer carbon electrodes. Large quantity is required, then prefer carbon electrodes. So the choice is completely depends on the local conditions. Here types of arc furnaces. Two types are present: direct arc furnace and indirect arc furnace. Direct arc furnace and indirect arc furnace. So in your syllabus this is 5.7 and 5.8. 5.7 and 5.8. Explain direct arc heating, explain indirect arc heating. So two types of arc furnaces: direct arc furnace and indirect arc furnace. Direct arc furnace, when supply is given to the electrodes, two arcs are established and current passes through the charge as shown in figure. Once the current is passed, so the current passes through the charge. As the arc is in direct contact with the charge, and heat is also produced by current flowing through the charge itself. So it is known as a direct arc furnace. So here see this figure. Here what is the theory? When the supply is given to the electrodes, two arcs are established and current passes through the charge. Yes, here these two are the electrodes. These two are the electrodes. Once DC or AC supply, positive, negative, phase or neutral. Once connect the supply to the electrodes, then the current will pass and this current passes through the charge. So here two arcs are established. Two arcs are established for each electrode, one of the arc. So and current passes through the charge. Current passes through this charge. Next, so if the available supply is DC or single phase AC, two electrodes are sufficient. If the supply is three phase, three electrodes are placed at three vertices of equilateral triangle. Single phase means 2, three phase means 3, placing in a triangle model. So the most important feature of the direct arc furnace is that the current flows through the charge. The stirring action is inherent due to electromagnetic force set up by the current. Such furnace is used for manufacturing alloy steel and gives purer product. It is very simple and easy to control. The composition of the final product during refining process operating. The power factor of arc furnace is 0.8 lagging. For 1 ton furnace, the power required is about 200 kilowatt and the energy consumed is 1.0 megawatt hour per ton. 1.0 megawatt hour per ton. So next one, indirect arc furnace. So here in indirect arc furnace, the arc strikes between two electrodes by bringing momentarily in contact and then withdrawing them heat so developed due to the striking of the arc across air gap is transferred to charge is purely by radiation. So these furnaces are usually single phase and hence their size is limited by the amount of one phase load which can be taken from one point. There is no inherent stirring action provided in this furnace, as current does not allow through the charge and the furnace must be rocked mechanically. The electrodes are projected through this chamber at each end along the horizontal axis. This furnace is also sometimes called as a rocking arc furnace. So the charge in this furnace is heated not only by radiation from the arc between electrode tips but also by conduction from the heated refractory during rocking action. So the efficiency of such furnace is high. The arc is produced by bringing electrodes into solid contact and then withdrawing them. Power input to the furnace is regulated. So here this is the indirect arc furnace. So by adjusting the arc length by moving the electrodes, even though it can be used in iron foundries where small quantities of iron are required frequently, the main application is the melting of non-ferrous metals. So here indirect arc furnace, two electrodes are present here. Here it is momentarily in contact. So the heat is developed. Here the heat is transferred completely by radiation. The charge particles, positive, negative charge. So the heat is completely transferred by charge radiation. So these furnaces are usually single phase and the size is limited by the amount of one phase load which can be taken from one point. So the arc is produced by bringing electrodes into solid contact and then withdrawing them. So the power input to the furnace is regulated. Next one, high frequency heating. High frequency heating. So the main difference between the power frequency and the high frequency heating is that in the conventional methods. In the conventional method, the heat is transferred by either by conduction, convection or by radiation. But in the high frequency heating methods, the electromagnetic energy converted into the heat energy inside the material. So I covered in the last class as power frequency methods, means conduction, convection or by radiation. Conduction, convection or by radiation. Next, in high frequency methods, the electromagnetic energy converted into the heat energy inside the material. Electromagnetic energy is converted into the heat energy. So here this type of frequency heating, the high frequency heating can be applied to two types of materials. One is ferromagnetic and another one is non-ferromagnetic. Is named as induction heating. Ferromagnetic, non-ferromagnetic. For high frequency methods, so this method named as induction heating. The process of heating of the insulating materials is known as dielectric heating. So this process, high frequency, named as induction heating. Induction heating. Before power frequency methods, so the heat is produced by either conduction, convection or radiation. But in the case of high frequency, means induction heating, the method is based on the electromagnetic energy converted into heat energy. Electromagnetic energy is converted into the heat energy. So the heat transfer by conventional method is very low, of the order of 0.5 to 20 watt per square meter. 0.5 to 20 watts per square meter. And the heat transfer rate by high frequency heating, either by induction or by dielectric heating, is 1000 watt per square centimeter. So here the high frequency heating is the most important for tremendous speed of production. Tremendous speed of production. So in the last class I discussed in the conventional methods. So the heat here producing by either conduction, convection or radiation. So here the heat also 0.5 to 20 watt per square centimeter. 0.5 to 20 watts per square centimeter. But here for high frequency heating, induction heating, the heating is 10,000 watts per square centimeter. Here now this is the induction heating. So here in induction heating process makes use of currents induced by electromagnetic action. Electromagnetic action in the material to be heated. Electromagnetic action in the material to be heated. So to develop sufficient amount of heat, the resistance of the material must be low. Because power equals to weak square by R. If R is low, the power become high. R is low, the power become high. Which is possible only with the metals. And the voltage must be higher. The voltage must be higher. So which can be obtained by employing higher flux and higher frequency. Higher flux and higher frequency. So therefore the magnetic materials can be heated than non-magnetic materials due to their high permeability. So in order to analyze the factors affecting induction heating, now let us consider a circular disc to be heated carrying a current of I amps at a frequency of 50 Hz. Here the induction heating is based on the principle of electromagnetic energy, electromagnetic action, and the heat also 10,000 watt per square centimeter, and it is the high frequency heating. The resistance must be low, then only the power will be high, because power equals to weak square by R watts. So therefore the magnetic materials can be heated than non-magnetic materials due to their high permeability. Now this is the simple, a copper coil, a metallic disc. Once the current will flows, the electromagnetic action will take place. So next one. Heat developed in the disc depends upon the following factors. Heat developed in the disc depends on following factors. So first one, primary coil current, the number of turns of the coil, supply frequency, the magnetic coupling between the coil and the disc, the high electrical resistivity of the disc, the high electrical resistivity of the disc. Primary coil current, the number of turns of the coil, supply frequency, the magnetic coupling between the coil and the disc, the high electrical resistivity of the disc. So these are the main factors for heat development. So next, if the charge to be heated is non-magnetic, the charge to be heated is non-magnetic, then the heat developed is due to eddy current loss. The heat developed is due to eddy current loss, whereas if it is magnetic material, there will be hysteresis loss in addition to eddy current loss. Non-magnetic means eddy current loss is present. Magnetic material means both hysteresis as well as eddy current loss will be present, both will present. Both hysteresis and eddy current loss are dependent upon frequency. Exactly. Both are dependent upon frequency. But At high frequency hysteresis, loss is very small as compared to eddy currents. Here the depth of penetration is in the disk is given by 1 by 2 pi under root rho into 10 power 9 by mu f centimeter. Mu f centimeter. So here it depends on the number of factors. Primary coil current, the number of turns of the coil, the number of turns of the coil, supply frequency, the magnetic coupling between the coil and the disc. For non-magnetic material, only eddy current loss will be present. But for magnetic material, both hysteresis as well as eddy current losses are present. So at high frequency hysteresis, loss is very small compared to eddy currents. So the depth of penetration is inversely proportional to 1 by root f. Here some of the terms, where rho is the specific resistance in ohm centimeter, f is the frequency, mu is the permeability of the charge, mu is the permeability of the charge, so here there are basically two types of induction furnaces. Two types of induction furnaces. Core type or low frequency induction furnace, coreless or high frequency induction furnace. Core type or low frequency induction furnace, coreless type or high frequency induction furnace. Coreless type or high frequency induction furnace. So now this is a part of your syllabus in (5.10). Explain induction heating. Explain induction heating. Here two types, core type or low frequency, coreless type or high frequency induction furnace. 5.10 is the in your syllabus. 5.10. Explain induction heating. Next one, 5.11 is the explain the principle of dielectric heating. Explain the principle of, see this one, 5.10 explain induction heating. 5.11 explain the principle of dielectric heating. Dielectric heating. So now next one, dielectric heating. Dielectrics means we know very well. So now, using dielectric heating. So when non-metallic materials, that is insulators, such as wood, plastics and china glass are subjected to high voltage alternating electric field, the atoms get stress, and due to interatomic friction caused by the repeated deformation and the rotation of atomic structure, heat is produced. Non-metallic materials like insulators means wood, plastic, rubber, china, rubber, etc. subjected to high voltage, some heat is produced. This is known as dielectric loss. This is known as dielectric loss. So this dielectric loss in the insulator corresponds to hysteresis loss in ferromagnetic materials. This loss is due to the reversal of magnetism. Reversal of magnetism in our BH curve. In BH curve, reversal of magnetism will take place. So this loss is developed in a material that has to be heated. That has to be heated. So an atom of any material is neutral since the central positive charge is equal to the negative charge. The central positive charge is equal to the negative charge, so that the centers of positive and negative charges coincide as long as there is no external field is applied. Both are coincide once there is no external field is applied. When the atom is subjected to the influence of the electric field, the positive charge of the nucleus is acted upon by some force in the direction of negative charges in opposite directions. Therefore, the effective centers of both positive and negative charges no longer coincident as shown in figure B. Here in B, the positive charge and negative inside positive charge and outside negative charges are present. So both are no longer coincident. So this can be represented by dipole moment as shown in figure C. As shown in figure C. So next, so this gives rise to an electric dipole moment equal to P equals to Q into D, where D is the distance between the two centers, and Q is the charge on the nucleus. D is the distance between the centers and Q is the charge on the nucleus. Now the atom is said to be polarized atom. If we applying alternating voltage across the capacitor plate, we will get alternating electric field. So electric dipoles will also try to charge their orientation according to the direction of impressed electric field. So in doing, some energy will be wasted as inner atomic friction, which is called dielectric loss. So this is like capacitor. So this is named as dielectric loss, as there is no perfect conductor, since there is no perfect insulator, because any one is not an ideal device. All the dielectric materials can be represented by a parallel combination of leakage resistor R and a capacitor C, as shown in figure A and B. As shown in figure A and B. Parallel combination of a leakage resistor R. Now here this is parallel combination of leakage resistors. All are connecting like this. This figure A. And B is the circuit diagram and C is the phasor diagram. So the AC voltage is applied across a piece of insulator. the electric current will flows. The total current I is supposed to them made up of two components, IC and IR. IC is the capacitor current leading the applied voltage by 90 degrees and IR is the phase voltage as shown in figure C. Here the figure C presents voltage. This is the voltage. IR, currents has IR, IC, IR and IC. IR is in phase. IR is in phase with the voltage. This is IR. IC exactly leads the voltage by 90 degrees. Now that current is I. Parallelogram law of vectors. Parallelogram law of vectors. I is the combination of IR and IC. IR is the in phase with the voltage and IC is the leads the voltage by 90 degrees. So, where V is the applied voltage, F is the supply frequency, the absolute permittivity is 8.854 into 10 power minus 12 farad per meter, and the relative permittivity of the medium is 1. So, in free space, the area of the plate or electrode, D is the thickness of the dielectric, delta is the loss angle. So, frequency used for dielectric heating is in the range of 1 to 40 megahertz. The use of high voltage is also limited due to the breakdown voltage of thin dielectric. Under normal conditions, the voltage gradient is used to 18 kilovolt per centimeter. So, the advantages of dielectric heating, next one. So, in your syllabus, this is 5.12, last topic in induction, last topic in electrical heating. So, the advantages of dielectric heating, applications and advantages. So, this is a part in your 5.12. So, first one, the heating of the non-conducting materials is very rapid. The heating of the non-conducting materials is very rapid. The uniform heating of the material is possible. Heat is produced in the whole mass of the material. Heat is produced in the whole mass of the material. Next one, the applications of the dielectric heating. Drying of paper, wood. The gluing of wood. The heat sealing of plastic sheets. The heat sealing of plastic sheets. The heating for the general processing such as coffee roasting and chocolate industry. The heating for the dehydration such as milk, cream and vegetables. The preparation of thermoplastic resins. The heating of the bones and tissues. Diathermy, the heat treatment for certain body pains and diseases. The sterilization of absorbent cotton, bandages, etc. the processing of rubber, synthetic materials, chemicals, etc. So these are the main advantages and applications of the dielectric heating. So many advantages and applications are present, but I covered main things. So this is the last topic in heating. So here I covered the advantages of 5.1. Advantages of electrical heating, the requirements of good heating material, the materials employed for heating, resistance heating, direct and indirect, industrial applications of resistance heating, different methods of temperature control of resistance heating, and also direct arc heating, indirect arc heating, industrial applications of arc heating means both direct and indirect. Next, induction heating, principle of dielectric heating, and finally I covered the industrial applications and advantages of dielectric heating. So in chapter 5, it is a combination of heating and welding. Next class, I will cover in the short questions of heating in the chapter 5, and state different types of electrical welding I will cover in the next class. These two topics. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you for watching the video.